master schedule. There are only 3 rooms unaccounted for in the course of the day, which truly handcuffs us. And so if you take the demographer's other recommendation, which is that we're talking right now about elementary and how it may impact middle as a K student, but as the board has been talking about in the past, I just want to throw it back on the table, there is still the idea that the high school, if this is not a bubble, which does not appear to be, these students will age up into the high school when the class sizes are already high, and we'll be getting more students than we have previously across the 4 grade levels that the high school serves. We have to pay careful attention to that. And so to some of the other board members who proposed ideas, if we are able to obtain this piece of property, we need to think about it carefully. Already having a plan for this physical piece of property building as to whether it's 5th and 6th grade that may help us coming up, or if it needs to be in some way, shape, or form looked into as it connects to high school.
So there's 2 parts to that. When we looked at 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, there's won't be enough parking for staff. Well, I mean, we have some other problems in the center of town, and you deal with dropping off the grammar schools now. If we come here when the high school and the middle school is dropping off, and to bring another grade here, the 9th would be easily supported because the teachers already have the staff parking, and the same amount of cars and people that are coming to the center of town are coming to the center of town. So you have to look at how do we basically do that, gym classes outside, the oval, moving people around. Bringing the 5th up here really impacted the oval tremendous, I mean, the whole avenue and staff parking, it just doesn't exist. But if you're bringing 9th this way, the same amount of students and parents that are driving are coming to the center of town. So there's some reasons that we've looked at it.
Fred, the one thing it's worth looking into is, right now, if looking to move the 5th and 6th graders to this property, will almost guarantee us that we'll never have to really do any other work as far as space to the elementary schools. Okay, which you know, but
Well, we might have to expand the high school then.
right, but you know, we may at that point look to see about expanding the high schools, whereas doing the 6th, 7th, and 8th, there is no guarantee that we won't have an issue at 2 of the elementary schools should what's happening across town eventually develop into more students, you know, going to certain schools.
How does the teaching certification work with 5th grade?
5th grade is still covered on the existing K-5 elementary cert.
Right.
You can teach, if you teach content only, we can have a K-12 math cert, teach just mathematics to students the way we have content certified people in this building teach as well.
So looking into back to the long-range planning, long-range committee, let me say that, sir. One of the other proposals was, so once you took that out, we also have a problem, as you heard, our special needs are outgrowing where they were. There was a possibility then of discussion of Yannicka School becoming larger and then housing the special ed program there where we can expand it and take care of all the kids. That freed up a lot of places we're at with a lot of freshmen in Lincoln, so you can then even off the 5 elementary schools and have plenty of space, and that would still allow us to do 7, 8, 9 here without winding up with more people in the center of town.
And that also was in conjunction with additions to Yannicka will include multi-purpose space.
Multi-purpose space, you have bigger gyms, cafeterias, all those things.
As well as different entrance and a stop, drop, and go.
Right, stop, drop, and go, and central office change, a lot of changes.
Security changes and the rest.
But maybe bringing in other students
From other districts.
so
Yeah,
that we
offset
can get
budget.
money to offset.
Absolutely.
And then we looked at even when we did the plan, if Roach came through, once we knew Roach came through, we left it so that up at Spring Garden, we still room for expansion to be able to do that section off if we had to, so we'd have to go all the schools at once and things like that. So we really spent a lot of, and I'm not, but, you know, I called Sal, I said, Mr. Ferrara is there, but Lisa and I spent about 2 years actually digging through every classroom and space on that committee and reporting up.
To your point, just to clarify again, we did that maximizing the footprint of Yannicka,
Right.
so that while we may be able to bring in tuition students if necessary, if Roche came to pass, we would still be able to house the impact of those students without the stress that we're currently doing.
That's correct. That's correct. So it was a lot of renovations.
And we even spoke about building a new school,
Yes.
if there was property.
We
but
explored
that-
building a 6th school.
Right, and that
absolutely.
turned out to be more costly, especially in the long run with staff
Yes.
and administration of
Yes.
the building.
Absolutely.
And I think what we forgot to really mention was a lot of this we talked about was tax increase on our
Oh, it's still a
residents.
referendum, of course.
That's a major issue. That's why each school individually is a great idea. And we thought about now that this property might be available, this might be the right way of us going financially to the taxpayers and for us as a school district.
But there is-
Sorry, Deb. I'm sorry, Deb, you over there.
Yes, if we could have an update on what conclusions we came to about staggered scheduling in the high school, or a different kind of scheduling to help ease some of the overcrowding at that level.
You prepared to do this?
Yeah, well, nothing's changed since our initial proposal. We're in negotiations because it's a negotiable issue. And depending on the outcome of contract negotiations, we may or may not be able to move to a different schedule. Again, through the strategic plan, I mean, just to review, nothing has changed, but through the strategic plan, we sent people out. A majority of high-performing high schools have switched their approach. Our configuration team has sent multiple staff members out to these different buildings to see, and they've all moved to a modified rotate and drop schedule, which allows, because right now our kids to take 8 classes have to give up their lunch, which we inherited coming in, but I don't think is healthy, is sound educational practice, is good for anyone per se. At the same time, if they don't do that, you have kids in other buildings that are taking 8 classes a year and so are not as competitive. Moving to the rotate and drop above everything else allows us to offer more classes, more high-level classes, not have lab impact negatively other classes that are not lab-based classes. It's a better staffing model for us and provides more contact time between teachers and students, and would alleviate that whole issue of we have 7, everybody else has 8. But currently that is a significant change in our contract.
And that's a negotiable issue that's on the board right now.
I get that, but I just think it's wise for us to realize we're not just looking at the grammar school level and the middle school level, what happens when we have this bubble, if it's a bubble or not, moving to the high school. As to Mr. Scalera's point, there's going to be an issue there, and we are looking at alternative ways to handle that.
But
That we don't need to
do we
do
have
a
a-
building or an addition.
Do we have a number of middle school going to high school drop? How many kids do not go from middle school to high school?
We end up with about approximately the same number of students leaving 8th grade as going into 9th grade. They're not necessarily the same students. Our class size does not dip about, if you use right now currently about 310 as your average class size at any grade level. It's about that. The other piece, Mr. Stability, the last 3 years I've been doing research, again, on this. The vast majority of students who leave Nutley but have not moved out of Nutley return to Nutley High School by sophomore year.
So I'd like to go back to the attorney for the purchase of the property. Our plan, right, because I don't want to see this drop, and I know none of us,
I'm not gonna let it drop.
none of us want to see this drop, okay? So our plan now is to at least have our attorney continue to pursue the purchase of the property, or the DOE's approval of the purchase of the property.
He is aware that there is a tight timeline that we've answered on those 2 questions, which is if the price is going to be approved based on need and what we have to do to make that happen, and if the payment plan is or is not an option to us as a public school. Once having those, the initial plan follows that we have to file a letter of intent with the owner, and that we'll prompt him to pay X, Y, Z so long as the NJDOE finalizes it, and that he's willing to accept.
And we are meeting with the commissioners next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
And we're going to discuss, one of the things we should put on our agenda now is to discuss the option of
How to pay.
how to pay, if they can help us out, if they can buy it and donate it to us, whatever might happen.
Right.
But we need to discuss that with them.
As well as some of the computer.
Yeah, we should set up a meeting with the assembly. He can help us at the DOE.
And again, going back to the previous retreat, the same 2 questions remain. The first is this idea of long-term plan for aid, and exactly what we're looking for. Again, whether it's across the street, across the alley here, or it's here, you have existing plans that will allow us to house what we need to house here, 6, 7, 8, not 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have the potential to at least do that, if not potentially more, although to Mr. Scalera's point, one of the issues we looked at is making sure we minimize the number of students we bring into the center of town, because it's going to involve changing traffic times as well as staffing. And one of the challenges that Nutley's idyllic setup produces for us is that even with staff get together and the rest, and we have these professional days, we try to bring people together to maximize resources. There's relatively little parking even for staff, and thankfully we've had a lot of cooperation from commissioners in making that happen. Again, that's going to compound the problem. One of the issues we talked about addressing at that site is in some way, shape, or form incorporating parking that in the physical site that would allow us not only to house our folks during the day, but allow the town to possibly make some revenue for people wanting to park downtown outside of school.
We could do 2 race stores.
That's what they were talking about.
Sure, ground level.
If if we get different feedback from the PTO at Yanacor School, would we think to make the movement to from the sixth grade middle school this September?
I can explore that with the county super. I don't know at this point in time it is the county. The other piece,
Educationally sound, I mean, or logistically sound, or?
logistically, security wise and the rest. It's definitely something we can make happen. And again, I've heard, we received I don't know if everyone received it, we received a survey. I'll make sure everyone shared with that from the parents again, or everyone received an email. And if you read through the survey, it really is the one thing that seemed overwhelming is we have support to move to sixth grade. How we go about it seems split. Again, my initial recommendation, some people have kind of misinterpreted my statements. I don't want our students in the trailer, which is why we proposed this plan going back 2.5 years, that we would not have space issue and the rest. I also, though, don't want to spend district resources that are few and far between already, and we're going to need them moving forward on something that's not going to be part of the long-term solution unless it's absolutely necessary. That being said, the two pieces I still need direction on from the board, and this is the initial conversation, but over the next week and a half. Long-term vision, are we bringing sixth grade here? And if we are, in what stages do we want to do that? Because that then determines what our short-term options as recommended are.
We're asking, are we bringing sixth grade here in the existing building?
It doesn't matter if you bring them over here, you bring them here, either way we have to have a referendum. I'm saying, is the plan to bring
Existing building.
No, the existing building. If we brought a couple of the sixth grades here now, we could do that in the existing building.
Where's about the whole sixth grade?
If the board is not looking to bring sixth grade here as a district long-term, then I don't know that the recommendation would be to bring
Well, I think the
anyone
recommendation is
here.
we're looking to bring sixth grade.
Consensus on the board is looking to bring sixth grade.
I think the clarification is if we bring them here, we're moving the referendum. They have to go together.
100%. It doesn't go any other way.
That's exactly the piece, and I don't want to bring one or two buildings here
That's right.
with the false promise of
No.
a long-term solution, unless we're clear on, and again, to be fair, this is going to necessitate, I've advocated this from the beginning, all due speed in the sense that this board may make that decision, and the DOE takes a while. I don't want that to happen to get caught in a spot in the process where we could stop and have a new board.
But here's the thing we have to look at. We have to make a decision for Yanacor, correct?
Yes, and what I'm
Okay.
saying is that that decision has to be based on the district long-term.
And we can
Yes,
acquire
I
the
think that right
property,
now
that can
we're-
happen.
We're all in a
But the
pretty
concern is gonna be, we start getting a referendum approved.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're looking 2-3 years down the road.
But the consensus of the board is
No, no.
that right now, we are in agreement to move the sixth grade to the middle school.
Correct.
If we were
All
to,
sixth grades.
with our own schedule, Lisa, right, if we were to say, we'll look at it today, we'd probably be on by, what's that March date of next year?
Before then, I think
If we move now, we can be
December.
before then,
Right,
because
so it's ready to go, Tom, the paperwork.
Okay, well, construction.
Oh, the construction, no, no, but I'm saying, if we get the referendum, you can move a class, because we have a definitive long-term plan. If we don't get a referendum, that's a big issue.
And
The
again,
plan that you have now doesn't take into account.
No, that's why we're waiting, I'm just using
Right,
Tom's
but
timeline
if-
for 3 years.
Right, but if
Well,
we
I'm just saying,
had,
you need a year probably from the time of having, because we're not gonna know what's gonna happen this property until the earliest, which is June.
Okay.
You go to trigger a referendum, and we're gonna burn up 9 months there, get it through.
Right, then the plans are wrong.
no, actually, if the architects have all the plans, we can get that through pretty quickly. We could probably make December.
Yes.
Because even when we had them in whatever the summer, he said we could get everything through. We just had to have all our ducks in a row and just make sure
And in the
everything.
same sense, we don't wanna rush either. Our plans, to make sure what plans we're doing are not just
Right,
to
but
get
we've
them in
already,
and voted
we've
on.
had these plans since whatever, 2013, so.
Yes,
Those
these
plans
plans are
are the same as including the property that we're talking about.
Right. But she's only giving you a timeline of the ways we are, not as if we're waiting for that rock. That's
Right.
What was the other concern?
sorry?
What did you say? There was two concerns.
The two pieces is based on that long-term decision. That determines what we do in the short term, and most specifically then with Yanacor and with Washington. And that's the guidance that, we have been pushing since back when we met.
And now when they come over, they're coming over as annex factions.
That's a different conversation. And again, I try to alleviate the pressure on the board members, and that's not, the decision to move them does not need to be contingent upon the academic approval. Okay, but the important thing is that we find the best possible way.
Why is it not contingent upon that? Why are we not?
Because we're legally allowed to use either or. In other words, if we still have to have conversation as to what academic program the board feels is best.
They'll be here, they'll be in the building. The decision then will be academically how we're going to treat them as sixth graders or as middle school students.
As it has been conveyed to me, is regardless of what this building is being used for, if we move them as an annex, you can keep them in an elementary model with the same staff members as a part of the Unicoi school. If you move them over here as a part of the middle school officially, they still can be serviced under the elementary model. Or if you bring them over as part of the middle school, they can be serviced under the middle school model. And that would necessitate, and this is the other reason why we need time to do this appropriately, if this is the academic program, it's going to have a significant change in staffing.
Because we have to change the stats
Because of
certifications to do
certificate.
that.
But if we brought over 2 schools instead of just 1, we could save some money because then the class sizes could.
It's almost logical because to bring in the second school because of the special area teachers that are necessary.
Okay.
At that point, we could not use a rotational schedule between the other buildings, we'd have to hire someone. Again, at the end of the day, if you remember, if we move all the buildings to the middle school model, there would be, not significant, but a slight savings when it comes to staff as far as FTE numbers.
I have a question on something else. So can we go to anything else?
We go ahead and mechanical school or construction or?
No.
This is about this, Joe.
It's all about this. Yeah, it's all about this.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything else. Anyone else have any comments, any discussions?
I estimate time.
Hang on, Mr. Riley's here with us.
No,
Yeah, Mr. Riley.
Mr. Riley.
Ken.
Since we're talking about the potential of moving the Anaclaw School 6th grade to the middle school, it's the first time I've heard the term annex used.
Okay.
Did you define that term for me here in this context?
As per the last retreat, if we house students here, it's in one of 2 ways, either as middle school students or as an annex of Yanakaw School. It really is, it's more about paperwork with the DOE than anything else. They can physically come in here. Neither one of them, as I said, determines the educational model. But the idea is that either they remain as far as the state, it's really just a state assignment. Either they're assigned to one school or the other.
Just for my personal opinion is I would feel that it would be more beneficial to move that 6th grade to the middle school that's currently in Yanaclaw, that we would immediately implement the middle school model.
That's another discussion.
Let me finish. But that's what we're discussing right now. We're just discussing.
No, we weren't discussing. We weren't discussing the style of the type of education.
Middle school model, but let me finish. Wasn't the superintendent just discussing the middle school model and the need to go to the state and the staffing differentials between those 2 educational models? Isn't that what we're just talking about?
I mentioned it simply because I'm still looking for an answer on what we're doing with grade 6. I didn't want that to be an impediment to the decision because it can go either way. That was all.
So that would be a yes. That would mean we're just talking about the difference between the staffing.
Yes.
No decisions.
Okay, thank you. So, anyway, I am for, the middle school model. I've had that discussion with several board members. I just want to go on record as stating that, number 1. Number 2, in 2013, Governor Christie put forth basically a $500 million school construction grant proposal. Have we applied for any of those grants?
There's nothing left in that right now.
I know. When we had those initial discussions, it was absolutely discussed at the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee, which is why we wanted to be timely, because at that time, the money had just been released. However, even in conversations with Trent, it would not have covered the entirety of what was necessary, and so there was still conversation about a referendum, and that's where our decision stopped. And now, to Mr. Scalera's point of